We finally made it. We're here. It's quite an exciting, I guess, beginning and journey, and there's so much to talk about. So I'm wonder where do we even start with all of this? So maybe my first probably thought would be how we've even ended up here, or like what is probably our purpose. And I feel like we actually spend so much time talking about health, longevity, and all of sort of similar aspects that it brought us here, where I guess we want to, share it, not necessarily with everyone, but with the audience that will, I don't know, can relate, I suppose. And I always said that once I met you, Alan, I saw you at times, as partly as a mentor, because there's so much that I could learn, and it kind of life ended up being, or life brought me to some paths or instances where I needed some, I guess, assistance or knowledge or intel. And I think, yeah, maybe that's where I would like to start. And maybe I would ask you first, because you have quite an interesting background. And I guess once we met, like I had no idea, because we also met under quite interesting circumstances. So maybe I'll start from many, many years back. If you would look back at your life, what were sort of the first memories that have any sort of correlation with either health, or maybe a point where you wanted to learn something about body, mind, spirit, or whatever
Man,
it
we're
is.
going to right into it from the start. Well, I have to say it's been a long journey. Of course, I'm older than you, so yeah. For me, I think this is a good moment because we've talked about this like since a while. We've known each other since a couple of years. It's not like
Yeah.
not been 20 years, but I think we immediately clicked because you're somebody who's like me, interested in like, okay, how can I improve myself? And
Yeah.
it's about constant improvement. And I think it's for both of us, it's kind of one of the objectives we have in life is to be a better person.
Mm.
And when you ask like about my background and where does it kind of all come from, and I think for most of the people, it's childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And for me as a child, I was like, I was not super healthy. I was like, kind of sickly, if you can say like that, weak.
Mm-hmm.
I had problems with my liver. I had days when I stayed in bed, just like really bad. Um, Pain, a lot of pain in my liver. I couldn't move. It was horrible. So the memories I had from childhood are not good. And that's where kind of my journey started because my mother took a lot of care for me. She was also very worried about me, about my health. So she was the first person who inspired me to look for better, to look for health improvements, to look at all the possibilities just to get better. So that's for me like the starting point is really my childhood and being like a sick child. Yeah.
So do you think that these particular experiences, well, at a later stage kind of pushed you, or maybe increase your interest in particular areas, how you can get better? And because I mean, when you're speaking childhood, I guess when you're 5, 6 years old, I mean, you don't really think that much about health. I mean, you're sick, but also you don't know any better.
It's true. But when you have health problems as a child, it's something that helps you mature very quickly. You kind of get self-conscious very quickly because you want to get rid of the problems. And maybe you don't have, maybe it's a simplistic view you have at that time, but of course you want to get better and you ask yourself, okay, why me? Why are the other kids having fun or being at school? And why am I in my bed in the dark? I cannot move. It's painful. And seeing my mother also being that worried for me was really like, something I don't wish for anybody.
Yeah.
But it's also something that like quickly gets you in the real world and like and with your body also. The relationship you have with your body when you are sick is also something that kind of it's a wake up call. It's a real wake up call. So as a child, I would say that you have this early consciousness of this link between what's happening in your body and kind of your mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can relate a lot because, well, not to such an extent, but when I was a child, I was sick a lot. I spent numerous days in hospitals, and I remember tons of antibiotics, which actually now in my current life, it kind of reflects a bit on some parts, on my microbiome, on my gut, and even the way I get sick. And I do remember I used to ask the exact same question: why is it always me? And there was even a joke where we would go with my parents on a summer holiday with their friends. I had a nickname, Mr. Accident, because I always would either get sick, I would break something, and I almost thought that this is my nature, or this is almost, it's meant to be in a way. And then Johnson, on the other hand, a couple of years ago, she started telling me, it's like, you have to stop, you have to quit this mindset, you're not Mr. Accident. So it's interesting. And I think probably in life, particular extremes bring us, to particular improvements or interests. It's not only related to health, but I think major events or accidents in life can reshape us. And so hence your story then, as you grew older, right?
Can I ask you something?
Sure,
Because
sure.
I think that's interesting to just pause on that, because the fact that you had a lot of accidents,
Mm-hmm.
and I know people who are like that, it's like, they call like clumsy, or
Yeah.
what is that? What is that?
That's a very good question. I think it has a strong correlation probably with your mind. So even nowadays, I quite often would walk and I would just bump my head into a door, and
So
it's
still
ridiculous.
today?
It still happens today. Yeah. It happens quite often, and then I get frustrated, and the more frustrated I get, the worse it gets, and then the more I start bumping my head into the door. If that makes sense. But I think it's my mind really that is always racing. I'm thinking, so I can be very unattentive because I'm thinking about 10 different things at the same time. So maybe that's one. And secondly, I don't know. I think getting sick, it's probably a topic that I've been discovering or trying to learn and understand more and more. And I came to a conclusion that things are not really accidents. And of course, you can have different immune systems. Some people get sick more than the others, but I think there are particular patterns or your habits that, have these conclusions or consequences. So I think more and more I'm starting to learn that, these are not random occasions. And it all comes down to very small variables: what you eat, how you sleep, and very much probably your mindset as well. So when I used to call myself Mr. Accident, that would be, that would trigger a series of events where, things would get worse.
I think there's also something to be said about the fact that people that are like clumsy,
Mm-hmm.
or people that are like more in their mind
Mm-hmm.
than in their body. So there is this kind of disconnect at some points. I'm
Yeah.
not saying all the time, but where you're not really in your body, you're in your mind, consciously or subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you stumble upon things, because
Yeah.
you need to be conscious all the time of your body in a certain space.
Yeah.
And when there is a disconnect, you're gonna bump into things, you're gonna fall, so
that makes sense.
Yeah, my daughter is like that as well. Every time she comes back from school, there is a new bump, there is something,
Yeah.
and she's like that because she's in her mind all the time, very dreamy personality.
Yeah.
And she needs to learn to be in her body more. Yeah.
No, it's actually, as you mentioned your daughter, I remember this one. Maybe we can shift. I remember this topic, we were having a conversation the other day, and you said such a random thing, but it stuck to my mind. And you said that you don't give your daughter, for example, raw carrots to eat. And there are a lot of food products, and I think we can elaborate a little bit more that, they're normalized that, well, this is healthy. A lot of vegetables are healthy. You need to eat. But I myself, I realized when I eliminated some of vegetables from my ration, that I've noticed a lot of health improvements, right? So I guess one size doesn't fit all. So
yeah.
And you have a lot of obviously experience and knowledge about food. So why is that? For example, carrot.
Yeah. So that's very specific. But let's say food is interesting. because you can open like your Instagram account and see 1,000 different viewpoints around food and diets. It's crazy. It's been like that, and kind of at a certain period it was like diet books, you know. But with the rise of social media, it's like everywhere, and so there are a lot of contradictory thoughts or guidelines you have. So for me, what's important is to look at, okay, and coming back to the body is listening to the body. Because one diet can be interesting for one person, another diet would be interesting for another person. So the idea that there is like a kind of one miracle diet or one way to do it, I think is false. There are people that can digest coffee perfectly. There are other. I always take coffee. Sorry, as an example, because it's very speaking. Because it's one of the first thing you drink in the morning for some persons.
Yeah.
And a lot of persons they don't digest coffee well. Okay.
Yeah.
And often you hear people saying like, "Oh yeah, I have my coffee in the morning. Now I have to go to the toilet, you know, and maybe I will take a cigarette, and then of course." So in what world do you think that something that make you go to the toilet immediately is like a good thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. This is like, for me, not even science. It's like just like feeling your body. If it flushes out your intestines like that, it's like, how do you think? How do you think this is a good beverage for you? So this is an example of like, okay, when you eat something, when you're like discovering the different foods that you can digest and tolerate well, try it and see how your body reacts. People have like disconnected from their body. And what do I mean? It's like, oh, okay, how do you digest in the sense that, do you feel pain? No? Okay. Do you have gas? Gas is like, people think it's normal to have gas all the time.
That was me. I can relate so much because, well, dairy for me, not only dairy, but we will probably talk more about it later, but a year ago I had to drastically change my diet to, and I mean, it even didn't make sense how, for example, diet could influence even muscle pain or like particular like pelvic floor region, for example. So I thought, and I used to consume dairy on a daily basis. I would eat Greek yogurt because I would like it, and I would be honestly, I would be very gassy on a daily basis. And I took it almost as a, you know, it's a normal thing. But I think to your point, and I don't want to generalize. I don't want to say the larger portion of population, but I have a lot of friends that have this disconnect, as you said, with their body, and they're not self-aware, they're not self-conscious enough, and a lot of things that are happening to them because it's been happening for such a long period of time that they take it, you know, as a given. That is almost, well, that's how my body operates, that's how my body works. And I guess it's nice that, well, the health and the longevity, all of these probably topics, I mean, it's a growing trend, right? So there's much more information online, and there are articles, and people talk about it more and more. Now you see Gen Z more often being at the gym 7 a.m. somewhere on Sunday than rather, you know, at some after party. So there's a clear trend, and there's a lot of, well, information and academical resources to look into it. But I guess it all comes or starts with yourself, right? So really reflecting and trying to, and the longer it's been happening, probably the more difficult it gets to pinpoint, you know, that maybe something is out of order. I was thinking also, like the other day when we were talking, you mentioned that, well, and maybe that's, maybe you can elaborate, that people or humans have hot and cold nature, right? And that would also influence based on the foods that they should eat or should avoid, right?
Maybe it's a good time to tell something about my background.
Yeah.
Because people will be like, oh, who is this guy? What is he talking about? Raw carrots, coffee. Yeah. No, I mean, so being a sick child, as bad as that memory was, really kind of propelled me into this kind of path of self-improvement and looking at, okay, what does it mean to be in good health and what can I do to better myself? I started martial arts when I was around 5, thanks to my mother. And I was really into like kung fu movies, manga, and I had this image of like this this old kung fu master, with this long white beard, and this guy was like he could fight, but he could also heal, and this kind of duality of like almost life and death, the fighting part, but also the healing part, and the spiritual part. This spoke to me at a very early age, and I saw this as a kind of route to improve myself. So I started with the martial arts. I was a very sensitive child. I was very shy. And I felt this urge, like I need to do something. I need to get stronger, body-wise, but
as
also
a child,
my mind.
That you already had this.
Well, let's say maybe not at 5, but around like maybe 8 or 9 years old, I had this thing. And it's really thanks to the martial arts that I got into this kind of world, and meeting also the right people, the right teachers that could also teach me like about health and the link with forging a strong body, forging a strong mind, and the impact on your health. So coming back to your to kind of your question, I started studying naturopathy when I was still a student.
What is that exactly?
So naturopathy is looking at ways to heal with nature.
Okay. Interesting.
So it can be like fasting, it can be herbs, it can be food. So it's looking at all the versatility of nature to heal you. And I have to say, healing is important, of course. But the best healing you can do is prevention.
Interesting.
So there is something about people always want to heal. You want to heal when you're sick. But my interest lies more in like, okay, but why do you get sick? What is the origin story? And why do you have to have a disease? Why do you have to have something happen to you before you react? So I was always looking into modalities that can like detect symptoms, things your body was saying to you, or even your mind, your subconscious, like, okay, something is deregulated, something is happening, and you need to fix that because it can become a disease later on. So I started with naturopathy.
But that's not very traditional medicine, right?
It's considered like an alternative medicine. It's not really, but it's based on like ancient traditions. Different traditions around the world have this like naturopathic approach. And then for me, what really, because this was a good base to start, let's say. And after that, I studied Chinese medicine. And I went to China. I worked in hospitals there, and my specialty lies in acupuncture, herbs as well, qigong. So it's like very, let's say, it's a very broad area of tools you have. But the principle of Chinese medicine, and that is so interesting, and that's kind of what we lost here in the West, is prevention. How can I detect early symptoms of something in your body being deregulated, act on that symptom before it becomes a disease?
Right.
And often people have the other approach of like, okay, I have a disease, I have something, and now I want a doctor to fix me. But maybe it's been years of something being deregulated. And so a disease is really a sign that maybe you waited too long. And in China, they have like a saying. It's like, don't start making weapons when it's war.
That's interesting. But it's, I always wonder why West specifically, we got so far like from our roots, or like the things, or the things that worked in the past. Why, I mean, you could argue, right, that pharmaceutical companies, I mean, it's a great business model and all, and even when there is a way to treat a headache, right, probably with some acupressure or like particular knowing some points, we know the first thing we grab is pills, and that's my sort of experience when I was growing up. And I mean, I don't blame my parents whatsoever. It's they didn't know any better. And I think that is the difficulty, where you don't have an example, you don't have any literature. And I mean, there's been literature, but you probably, you were not, they were either not interested, but it's probably the whole society, or like the bigger part of society. And it's so easy just to, grab a pill or go to the doctor and treat. I guess if you have a headache, you're only treating a headache, right? And probably in Chinese medicine, you always have more of a holistic approach, right? So as you've said, either, looking at the prevention or treating your body as a whole. And I've been going to this acupuncturist, and he actually told me a very interesting thing. I won't be able to quote it word by word, but he asked me, do you have a word in your language, in Lithuanian? How do you say to heal? Because a lot of words in languages, they don't have a particular word to say to treat a particular part of your body. Is to heal as a whole. So that also, I guess, says a lot, right? That from the past, from a long time ago, even the way people would communicate, it would be about, your whole body as a whole. If you have a problem, not taking a pill to just, kill your headache.
Can I interrupt you there and
Sure.
ask you, like, what is this, like, in your story?
Mm-hmm.
Was there like a moment, or is this not really a moment you had? But like, at what point did you turn to other ways of healing? And sometimes it makes me like, when people call this like alternative medicine, I'm like, this is the oldest medicines in the world. Why alternative? This is the medicines we used for the longest periods, and we still call it like alternative.
That's in my health insurance. It says alternative medicine reimbursement.
You're like, what do you mean alternative? This is not alternative. This should be like the basis of all medicines before turning to pharmaceuticals. So was there like a moment, or what kind of made you think of other ways of healing?
So probably a year ago, I developed this condition.
So it's pretty recent.
It's pretty recent. I mean, I've been sick, I would say, my whole life to an extent, but not to an extent where it would give me a lot of discomfort, or it would really push me to look for alternative ways to get better. So a year ago, I developed this thing called chronic pelvic pain syndrome, which at the beginning I didn't know. It was just one day, all of a sudden, I had.
Is this common?
It's increasingly common for men. So it's not a very common thing, but as I've done my research, it's getting more and more and more. The difficulty is that it's not really clear what is the root cause, right? So this can be caused by various things. So it could be stress, it could be muscle imbalance, it could be your gut. So again, hundreds of things. But the way it just started is just one day, all of a sudden, peeing got really, really painful, and also the need to go to the bathroom frequently, constipation. So a lot of these symptoms, also actual physical pain, like sitting for 5 minutes would be a torture, and it just happened like that. Although when I did reflect, I think it was coming for 6 or 9 months, because I had these small instances where I would almost feel the need to pee. But that was the issue, that I ignored it. I almost took it, same with a lot of things when it comes to nutrition, that it's almost a natural thing. And when I did go to the doctors, they were really clueless. So their first sort of response was thinking about antibiotics, and but then actually, funnily enough, Reddit was my best friend, where I went on the forum and I started doing research, and I found, okay, there are actually many people have this condition. And then, slowly, well, not slowly, but shortly after, I also, presumably because of COVID, I got a lot of gut issues. And actually, as I would eat, my hearing got worse, or I developed tinnitus. My vision got worse. As I would eat, my hands and feet would get numb. So really, a lot of symptoms that they don't seem really related, or that they make sense. So again, when I would go to my general practitioner and I would explain what's happening to me, they would look at me and they would ask, what is it that you want me to do? You tell me, So, and I guess that's where I really started looking, well, as we said, we call it alternative. It's not really alternative medicine, but into, okay, so what is it that can do to get better, because I've been pretty much living in, well, now it's been better, it comes and goes, but I lived in pain on a daily basis for a year, and that drives you crazy at some point. So that was probably the tipping point for me, and I'm almost grateful, because probably if I wouldn't have gotten sick, to be very honest, I wouldn't be sitting here and talking with you today. So it changed my perception, my interests, and my life, and I really found out a lot about, you know, the power of mind, and again the nutrition we spoke of. So yeah, it's been quite a journey and still ongoing, but it taught me that we're not just flesh, you know, and so.
But it's interesting, because it's often like the trigger point of a lot of people is like that they don't find the answers to their health issues with like conventional medicine. They go to a doctor, and then often there are like symptoms that are not really linked. And then the physician, okay, he works in a symptomatic way. Okay, I'm going to prescribe you something for your tinnitus, and then maybe something for your headache, and then maybe something else for your...
Exactly.
And then you're there with like 3-4 different medications that you have to take every day. But we forgot, and even because, of course, my background is Chinese medicine, but in naturopathy also, we forgot here in the West how to prevent all this, or to kind of look at, like you said, look at things in a holistic manner. So we forgot about that, and a lot of people today, and I think it's also thanks to social media, they have access to a lot of new therapies or new data. So I think we are advancing in a good way. And one of the reasons I think we're doing this podcast also is to kind of give an array of solutions, of pathways to people. And at a later stage, we will have experts in a lot of fields and explore together the different paths people can take to get better. Because you see a lot of contradictory information also on the internet. There is a lot of things going on in terms of science, but it's sometimes difficult to kind of
so to pick what makes sense, what is right, because the abundance of information nowadays, it's crazy.
It's too much. It's too much for people. And also, who is going to look at an Instagram post and then think, what is the source of this? Oh, let's maybe go on PubMed, or let's go, on in a scientific journal and check the sources of what. Nobody's doing that. You're just scrolling, and so
it's difficult to find credible information, right? Because I mean, you also have a lot of people that make business out of whatever they present or they talk, and a lot of that could be, I mean, it can be bullshit, to be very honest. I mean, it's so I think this is the difficulty also for me when I was probably researching or trying to figure out, what is it that I should do. I found things that were completely the opposite of what I was supposed to be doing. So it's and I think it maybe next point is probably our minds, right? That they're all constantly loaded with so much information.
Coming back to the coffee, can I just interrupt you for a second? Coming back to my coffee, when you ask a group of people, you ask 10 people about, is coffee good for you? I'm sure 50% will say it's good for you. We found a lot of good things about coffee, and then the other half will say oh no, coffee is bad for you. And it's almost like a cycle of coffee is good for you, and then at some point, oh no, it's not good for you anymore.
100%.
So just coming back, I think
actually on
coffee will come back a lot in my examples, because it's very speaking.
It's an interesting one about coffee, because as I developed this chronic pelvic pain syndrome, so there are a lot of irritants that would irritate my bladder and would make things much more painful. So coffee was one, or caffeine to be more specific. And then I realized as I was drinking coffee, I would get a lot of pain. So as I did some research, I had to quit caffeine. And I started drinking coffee when I was maybe 14, 15. And that was almost a daily habit, 2-3 cups a day. I had to quit coffee cold turkey. And I remember I was in London and I had work meetings 3 days back to back. And that was exactly the point where I quit coffee. And I remember the mental fog and the pain and the emotion I was going through, I vividly remember how it exactly felt. It was
really like kicking off.
Horrendous.
Kicking
it was
off.
awful.
Yeah.
So that made me also realize it's like, oh wow, like I'm really addicted to caffeine. So giving it up the first 2 weeks, I had low energy. I was moody. It was really not a good time. But as I got rid of it, because also in the morning I would wake up, I would feel a bit tired. So the first thing that I would do, and now I know very well, you shouldn't be drinking coffee on an empty stomach, for example.
Never.
First thing you wake up, right? Because you have a spike of energy and then you have a crash, and it's quite heavy for your stomach, as you've said. I never felt better in terms of energy. So I realized coffee is something I truly loved, and that would give me energy. But I also do remember 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, if I have 2 or 3 cups, then I have a crash. So as I quit caffeine now, I have really steady energy throughout the day, and I don't have the uplifts and dips. So I'm actually, I'm happy to, and I mean, for some people it works. I'm not an advocate saying that coffee is bad. Absolutely not, because there's also a lot of evidence and research that, also has a lot of positive things. But my personal experience is I'm much happier without caffeine.
But it's not also like, it's also like the thing with coffee is like, okay, the question, the better question to ask is, why do I need coffee in the morning? Why am I feeling so tired when I wake up? That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Fix that.
Yeah.
Coffee is not going to, it's going to fix that for a while.
Yeah.
But then you need to drink more at some point. You get used to like having this caffeine in your body. So I don't think it's good for anybody to be honest. Some can like have a better tolerance.
Yeah.
But it's more like these little habits that you have, and you're talking about like what the mind kind of pushes you into doing, and it's even more than just like thinking of coffee when you're waking up. It's the addiction. It's like it's your body also reacting. It's not only like your mind thinking of this 100%. Good warm coffee that will help you get through the morning, but it's also your body craving this coffee, and being conscious of that. It's like, I think the first step to making the difference between what do I really need and what is like this kind of false signals my body.
It comes with food as well, no? I mean, there's so much topics and research, and people talk about sugar constantly, like sugar, or in general, probably carbohydrates, right? So I think but people also have this tendency, to go and grab, a pastry or whatnot without even thinking about it, right? Because your body, needs this short-term energy, or like it needs glucose, for example. But a lot of these things, as you say, probably as you reflect, if you would eliminate some of these things, or probably either it's food or some habits, then you would have the steady energy and you wouldn't need stimulant, right, as a coffee. And probably that's my sort of next thought. Would you say that the current not the current generation, but people that are overly stimulated? And I'm not talking about food, it's everything, phones, social media, whatever it is, and that sort of it disbalanced us in a way.
The obvious answer is yes. And the more stimulation you get, the more you look for stimulation, the more you will need stimulation. So there's also this dopamine addiction, of course, and this kind of you never let your nervous system rest. So your nervous system is constantly on alert, which also affects your immune system. And so, you need to let your nervous system
how does it
rest.
work? How does it work? How does it affect your immune system?
I'm not a scientist.
No, but of course, I'm not asking you as a scientist or doctor, but how do you think, like logically speaking, if your mind is constantly engaged, or you have these like dopamine spikes all the time, does that sort of reflect back on your immune system or your body, and then you get weaker in a way?
So it's when you're constantly stimulated, you get your body in this kind of overactive state, your body and your mind. So it requires a lot of energy from your nervous system to react to all these stimulants. So your body is constantly triggered. And that means that there is less energy left, less attention left to other threats, real threats that might be happening. And one thing that's been talked a lot and studied a lot is cortisol. So the stress you get even when like you're playing a video game or you're running to catch your bus or something like that. Our modern lives are not kind of natural for us. We're
Yeah.
meant to once in a while run from a predator, right?
Yeah.
But
So
here
having been this fight or flight all the
yes,
time.
but here you
Yeah.
get these cortisol spikes throughout the day. You're stressed because you have to do a presentation in a meeting. You're stressed because you have to do a podcast.
Yeah.
You're yeah, maybe not stressed is not the right word, but you're always in this like hyper productive
Yeah.
state. And society today also pushes you, and that's
100%.
why. Besides that, to balance that, you need to have some kind of practice. Can be yoga, can be something to calm your nervous system of this overstimulation.
And I think what I find kind of funny and interesting, a lot of also, well, friends that I know that are male, people want to stay fit. They go to gym, they go running, they want to look good. But I mean, we can see probably our brain or our mind also as a form of muscle, right? It's also something we need to train. And I have a great example. I used to play Sudoku a lot. I like numbers, and I remember my brain, as I would play it, I would be sharp. The way I would even
What kind
think
of
at work.
Sudoku level are you? Like master
I don't know,
level?
it was just like a
Sudoku master.
No, it was just an app on the phone. I would play hard or expert, yeah. So I liked the challenge. And as I would play Sudoku almost on a daily basis, I realized now as I reflect that even any mathematical simple additions or equations in my mind, it would come so naturally and much faster. And as I sort of quit this hobby of mine, I realized my mind actually got sluggish, or it got slower. I don't think as fast as I used to. So that's for me a very good representation that training your mind, and I mean there's so many different ways to do it, and we can touch upon that, it's as important as your body, because people are obsessed about their physical appearance, about their muscles, about how they look, how it's almost a body cult nowadays in probably some societies. But the mind is neglected and forgotten, and I think it's actually an interesting one. About the gym and about the muscle that there's been research done, and I mean it's not that black and white, and I cannot really again quote it, but as you exercise, also if with your mind you focus on the actual muscle that you're working on, there's been research stating that the results are significantly better, right? So that means that our minds should be engaged, or we should really make use of them, because it has a correlation with anything physically.
I think it goes even further than that. If you're not going to the gym, not training, but you're thinking about it.
Yeah, true.
You're thinking about the training, you're thinking about it has like a positive effect on building muscle.
Yeah, I remember,
which is crazy, and which
crazy.
Really like it really says a lot about the mind-body connection.
Yeah.
And it's true, people are obsessed with the physical, but the most important thing we need to keep in mind is this balance thing. If you don't have a practice to calm your mind and also to rest your body, it's like, okay, sleep is important. But sleep was always like super important. 8 hours of sleep was like the normal thing to do. 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours was like normal in ancient times. Maybe you would like sleep, maybe you did the night in like 2 times, something like that. And then all of a sudden, and especially in the US, there was this trend of like, you need to be super productive. So you need to wake up at 5 because you have to go to the gym, you have to do a meditation, some journaling, and then you have to eat a conscious breakfast, and then you start your... No, I mean, this is really
I think it's not about what time you wake up, right, but how many hours you sleep. And I think the problem is that I saw, and I think it's changing now, that it was almost encouraged. If you're a human that, you would sleep 5 hours a day and you worked 14 hours a day, people would be like, wow, you're doing a really good job, which, I mean, now I think that trend is sort of changing.
But that's also what these billionaires like Elon Musk and all these guys are also, when they talk about what's your day like, how do you do it to be, they don't sleep a lot. They sleep like 4 or 5 hours. And it's not giving a good example, because this is not like what the general population should do.
I think it's we're going into the right direction. That in general, probably your mental health, well-being is being. I mean, I even work, for example, in a company that we have these additional benefits that if you need, for example, any help, or we have almost, I don't know how it's called, company, not company doctors, but there's an external company we work with, and I see more and more corporations sort of encouraging and trying to support their employees or whatnot, because also you're seeing many more people are being now burnout. Well, they're on a burnout leave, for example, and it's just, it gets too much
But
of
is that
everything.
not kind of, for these companies, shooting themselves in the foot? Because on one hand, they want people to be more productive, to work harder, kind of.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, to try to enforce that, or to try to get people to be more productive, they're going to pay you this almost, this special doctor you can call, or this meditation app, and so, but you're not fixing the root cause of the problem. The root cause is that you're pushing people to work harder. You're putting so much pressure on the people. It's not normal that as a company, okay, now we need to do something for the mental and physical well-being of our employees, while the solution would be, how can we organize the days better, and how can we put like less pressure on work?
Yeah. I think it's a difficult balance to maintain and to have. And again, some people are more probably resilient, and some are a little bit more sensitive. So again, I think it really depends. But I think what matters for us probably as humans is to have these tools, or have the knowledge, right? How can you calm your nervous system down? How can you calm yourself down if your mind is racing? And I mean, a very big discovery of probably in the past 1 year of my life was breath, and that's an interesting one. I was watching a podcast, and I don't remember who was saying it, but there was this one guy said, he said that he went to Asia, and I don't remember was it China or Japan, and he went to a school, and he got asked back in the West, what are one of the first things you get taught at school, and it's like math or geography, whatnot. In Asia, they said that one of the first things that kids are taught in school is breath.
It's
how
true.
to breathe properly.
It's true.
It's like, what do you mean breathing properly? And I think this is something that a lot of people don't have awareness of. Is like the way we breathe. You can and I mean, it's quite an extensive topic, but I really learned when I get agitated or stressed that just with power of my breath, 30 seconds, I can completely change my state of mind, or like physically how I feel.
And what kind of breathing do you do?
Well, so during the day, I generally try to, so for example, if I'm at work and something really annoys me or stresses me off, there are a few techniques. So one is where you do 2 fast inhales. So it's like, and then you exhale for 5 or 6 seconds. So that naturally activates your parasympathetic nervous system, because as you exhale for a longer period of time, your body, it basically tells your body, okay, you're relaxed, you're safe, because if you hyperventilate, if you breathe fast, then your body is ready to flight or fight. But it's also, you can just generally inhale for say 4 seconds through your nose, exhale 6 or 8 seconds through your mouth. And that taught me a lot, because I also from most of my life, because I had always nose issues and I would be sick, I would breathe through my mouth a lot. So I would exhale and actually, as I would speak with Jansu, she would tell me, it's like, you have to tape your mouth when you go to sleep, because well, a bit of a backstory. No, I don't do it, but I should do it. It's just I cannot breathe through my nose always as well. I always had issues with my nose, and my structure is not exactly straight. So, but the point is that I want to get braces, right? Because I had to. And my orthodont also told me and showed me photos. So actually, they put these little spikes inside my mouth, and she said you have to be aware of even your tongue's placement, because the way you breathe, your face structure changes, your jawline changes, right? So people look very, very different, and as they learn or get used to breathing, through their nose, it's such an extensive topic, and it's such a simple thing, right? Because we all breathe, but we're so not conscious of it, and it's difficult. And I guess if you don't end up in a situation where it's your health related, because I had to really also start making use of my diaphragm, my belly, right? So belly breathes to relax my pelvic floor. That was one of the main things, one of the first things that I've learned how to sort of, help myself. And honestly, the physical pain would go out. I would feel my pelvic floor relaxing. I would feel it in my hamstrings even,
Wow.
just
Do you know there
by
are quite
breathing.
some people who cannot like breathe through their belly? Like
Really?
learning belly breathing is like, yeah, I learned it like super early thanks to martial arts. Belly breathing was like something, and it's very natural to me. And often I breathe more through my belly than through my lungs.
Yeah.
Of course, you breathe through your
Yeah,
lungs,
yeah.
but you know what I mean?
Of course, through the chest, yeah.
Yeah, and that's and breath is super interesting. I would be interested to have like a guest like specialized in like
100%.
breath work,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
breath work is like something you can do freely.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah,
The air is
exactly.
free. I have my body, so I can train. There are a lot of course, resources to help you with that. But the air you breathe, the quality of the air you breathe is important. The way you breathe, and there are so many techniques that can benefit you in terms of breathing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say like, okay, I do this during the day. I can like notice, okay, now I need some breathing, and it really helps you. What I often see is people have this practice. It's when they come home or between 6 and 7, they will do some breath work or some meditation, and it's good, it's okay. But the point is also to try to integrate these practices throughout your day. So the breathing exercises you do, of course, at first it will be forced.
Yeah.
Because you still
It's
need to get
difficult.
used.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
difficult, but at some point during your day, you will be able to do it naturally when events occurs. When you have these external triggers that come,
It's all a practice, 100%.
it's all a practice, and it's like meditation should be. You should be in a state of meditation throughout your day. Of course, I know it's not really, always possible, but trying to be in this calm state, whatever happens to you,
Yeah.
breathing freely is already something that's important. A lot of people, they like have this blocked breath in terms of like your upper lungs, and you feel it. You're like, because you're talking about your diaphragm, and often the breathing happens above.
Yeah.
And that doesn't put you in a relaxed state. You're talking about hyperventilation. That's where also hyperventilation happens. It's like your upper body. And so you need to lower your breath and breathe with your diaphragm and go lower even.
Yeah.
Because you can do like also pelvic floor breathing as well. But it's just to say like you need to try to integrate those practices in your like daily life. And that's what all these practices kind of teach you. It's a way of life. It's not a practice between 6 and 7 that you do every day, and it's like almost a check the box. I did my breath work today, and then now I can go on with my life.
It's an interesting one, how also our breath has a very strong correlation with our mind, right? Because as I would breathe, for example, and again, I'll go back to my pelvic floor, as I would imagine in my mind that as I breathe, that the breath goes, down my spine and reaches my pelvic floor and then it rises again, I would notice, and I would really notice a difference. So when you just breathe, and also if you would engage your mind with your breath, that's a very, very different story. And as you said, I 100% agree that it all comes down, to almost, it turning into a habit or into a practice. But maybe one more breath that really fascinated. I remember once, because I was always interested in Wim Hof and his practices. I thought initially when someone told me, it's like, who's this crazy man? He goes with his shorts, walks in the mountains, and it's freezing. But particularly his breath probably was one of the main things that gave me a lot of probably mental clarity in a way, because I was miserable. I was not feeling well. I really got into the loop of, Jansu would get back from work and she would ask me how was my day, and I would just say, whatever.
Wow.
And really it was
kind of a low
difficult.
point.
And it's not that far, we're talking half a year ago, maybe 9 months ago. So, but I remember as I started practicing Wim Hof breath, which is basically 30 short inhalations and exhalations, right? So a lot of CO2 leaves your your body and your blood, almost the pH levels become alkaline. So also there's a lot of research done how that, because inflammation, right, maybe you can confirm, is, well, one of the main root causes of a lot of diseases,
True,
right?
yeah.
So that also particular breath helps a lot with inflammation. Or as I was reading, people that had pelvic floor issues, just this breath cured them. People that had gut issues, this particular breathing technique also helped them out. As I did it one of the first times, I was shocked. I got so euphoric. I picked up my phone. I was calling John. Was like, you will not believe me what happened. And the whole body is tingling, and you have this euphoric feeling. And all of a sudden, I got so extremely positive, and I was like, whatever is happening to me physically, I will go through it. Like I'm so confident, and it's so difficult to even as I reflect back, I remember that moment so vividly, and that gave me also a lot of confidence and fortitude moving forward. Just breath,
with your breath.
Just
That's
with my breath.
Crazy, because it's just you working with you working with
Exactly.
your body. Wim Hof is like a particular individual. I remember you shared me this image, this video of these people around like a lake in the snow. I don't know where it was, somewhere in the mountains or
in Poland. He does this
in Poland,
trainings.
but it was like snow everywhere, and he's like in his like Hawaiian short playing banjo or whatever, and you have people like in the lake in this. So honestly, I have a lot of questions about it. So I didn't experience it, so I don't know much about it. So I will not judge. What I think, it's like, this is not for everybody. Wim Hof is also a very special individual. He has like crazy genetics. So I mean, there is also something to be said about that. But I think more generally, in the breathwork space, you have so many different practices you can do, and it's like, what fits you, what's like easy to do for you, because some like breathwork practices are very difficult. It's very difficult, and you can like get into these euphoric states. But of course, there is a whole path to getting there, and it's just like starting with something, starting with like, okay, how can I start with like this belly breathing? How can I breathe with my belly and try already to find sensations in there? And of course, your intestines also will find some relief doing that, but much more things will happen when you do that. And the diaphragm also, like liberating your diaphragm, making sure there is like space there as well, is like super beneficial for so many things.
Actually, on cold, since you touched upon cold, and I think also cold plunges is such a trend, right? Everyone is now being pushed and told, to have cold showers. And I mean, I'm one of those people that I started having cold showers probably a year ago, and I wasn't very consistent. But now for the past half a year, I am consistent on a daily basis. Although I have to say, I did notice in the beginning when I was doing that cold, and naturally, if you just go in the cold shower and you don't control your breath, again, what happens is that your body will almost, gets into this like stagnating phase, and you can, especially for me, where I had to relax my muscles, let go, that made it even worse in the beginning, right? So I had to really be aware of my breath. But I think we had a conversation once about cold exposure in general, right? That, again, it doesn't suit everybody. And I think especially women, right? So I don't know, what sort of what do you think about cold exposure?
Cold exposure is like, it's like a funny thing, because of course it's a trend. And if you take the perspective of like ancient traditional medicines and Chinese medicine, for sure, it's like cold, and you feel it. Cold is constricting everything. Okay, so the natural reaction of your body is like a kind of survival mechanism due to the cold. So what's going to happen is that not only does cold constrict everything, but your body will need to work more, and create these special enzymes, these special proteins to get you in this, fight or flight mode, this kind of survival mode, which can be beneficial in the sense that it's not bad to push your body like kind of beyond the limits for a little while, and you will have some benefits from that. But of course, there are also, we're talking about cortisol. So you get high cortisol spikes, high cortisol releases, which is a stress hormone when you're like in this cold shower. So imagine if you do a cold plunge, you had like a stressful day, you're already like high on cortisol during your day. And then you're going to this cold plunge, which pushes your body again to produce more cortisol. This is not good to do like for too long, for sure. And then for women, of course, there is also something to be said. For women, it's like they need to be careful because their body works also differently. Women that have their menses should not do it. Like cold plunges for me, like this is something I for sure would not recommend. And then in general, the cold gets in your body one way or another. And in Chinese medicine or in Chinese tradition, cold is death. Okay, so everything that's cold will not heal you. Everything that's cold will bring you closer to death. It's a bit extreme, of course, but it's the idea behind it. Warmth is healing. Warmth is healing. So you should strive for like being in warm places, putting warmth on your body to heal you. Because what warmth will do, will dilate your tissues, your blood vessels. That will be a good thing to make sure the nutrients and your cells in general will move more freely in your body to the affected zones if you have an injury or something like that. So warmth is always something we look for instead of cold. So I'm not a big fan of cold plunges. And it also depends on your body constitution. Some people, they cannot like sustain cold. And there is
so it's not something you can learn. It's not something you can practice and get better.
Yeah, of course you can. But if you have already, because if we're talking about like the principles of Chinese medicine, some people have a more cold constitution. Some people have more like a hot constitution. Very simply explained, let's say in basic terms, if you have a cold constitution, you will probably not like cold in general. You can have cold hands, cold feet, so easily catch colds. Also,
that's me.
Digestive issues are always also like very linked to that kind of body constitution. And then you have people who are like more a hot constitution. They are always hot. They are like, even when it's cold, they wear a t-shirt. They at night also, they don't like to have like a lot of layers on them. So you need to know what's my constitution. And so these simple things will be able to define kind of what constitution are you. People that have this more hot constitution, they will not like drinking hot tea, for example, for the whole day, or not being able to accept like hot soups, or it needs to be, not too hot. For the colder constitutions, they will like to put some hot beverages in their body, etc. And for those people, I will for sure not consider like cold exposure. It will put a lot of stress on their body, because in a natural state, their body, they have already difficulty to warm up their body like that. And you're gonna plunge them in a cold bath. Imagine the strain that you put on the body to like at that moment warm up the body. So it's gonna require a lot of effort. Whereas for the other type, it's gonna be more easy.
It's interesting as you say it, because I have such good two examples. My father and mother. So my father, during winter, he goes with Crocs and shorts to plow the snow outside. I kid you not.
Wow.
And he's always warm, so he would always see him walking with shorts and a t-shirt. Summer or winter at home, and he's always warm. My mom, on the other hand, during summer, she still sometimes puts woolen socks on.
Yeah.
And I'm probably somewhere in between. But it's an interesting one, because I tend to have cold feet, or I used to have quite often. So I love wearing socks at home. But as I started, having cold showers on a daily basis, and again, it's not pure cold from the get-go. I started warm and then I finished 1 or 2 minutes cold. I actually noticed that even while being outside, I don't feel as cold anymore, because previously I used to be very cold, but I'm still probably more into this warm nature where I need warm things, and it's almost, I think, body more often.
So you're more
than
a cold nature, you mean? A cold nature. because you need still warm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. But it's also an interesting one where I think we spoke about previously about food and beverages. I never drank tea in my life. Was just not a fan. I didn't want to have tea. And as I develop my gut issues, I subconsciously, I go and make tea. And I even questioned the other days, like, why? I've been drinking so much tea. I've been drinking tea on a daily basis now. And it's not that I made a decision that I really like it. It's just sometimes almost my body gets me to the kitchen, I'm boiling water, and it's like, what am I doing here? And it's an interesting one, right? And I think when we spoke, maybe 20 minutes ago, we
But
touched upon.
Do you know on tea, if we go, maybe not today, but one day deep on tea, it's super interesting because there is not like one tea, there are different types of teas. And the teas have also different natures. So white tea has like colder, refreshing nature. And then when you go into the more like the black tea or even the black smoked teas, things like that, they have a warming nature.
Yeah.
So in China, you would never drink white tea in the winter, for example.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it comes down to that. So it's not only I'm drinking a hot beverage, but even the nature of the beverage. And it's the same for like all kinds of food and drinks can be classified in hot and cold. Yeah. So it's a good way to guide you, depending on your nature, into things that are good for you, that are beneficial for you, and things that you should avoid.
Yeah, I think with beverages, an interesting one. During summer, people quite often grab, a beverage with a lot of ice. A few times when we were in the US, I mean, the amount of ice they bring, it's shocking. It hurts your teeth. But I really noticed once on a particularly sunny day, I actually had a lot of cold beverages and I got tired, right? Yeah. So it takes a lot of energy for your body to make it, for you to digest, right? That cold beverage, it requires a lot of energy. So even I think in warm countries like India, that's where they drink, for example, a lot of tea.
Absolutely.
Because
or in the desert, for example.
Yeah.
And from a Chinese medicine perspective, it's also ice is not good for you because what the stomach likes is warmth. We speaking about like the digestive fire. So there is this fire element in the stomach. The stomach needs warmth, and that's why, coming back to your carrots example from the beginning, if you eat raw carrots, it's considered really as cold food, and this is not going to be beneficial for your stomach. Your stomach needs warm and cooked foods, and if you put ice on it, it's gonna quiet this digestive fire.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was thinking that 20 minutes ago we touched upon a bit, we were talking about the mind. Mind is an interesting one, right? And you mentioned meditation. I know, what's sort of your relationship with meditation in your life? Is that something you practice? Is that something,
Yeah, I started meditating at a young age, again, because of the martial arts. And it was like part of the thing is always to have a meditation moment at the end of the martial arts practices I did. So it came quite early into my life. But as a child, you don't get the same kind of benefits, or maybe not the benefits, but you don't think of it in the same way as you do as an adult. Meditation is weird because from my practices, there are like so many different types of meditations. And it's I think the best advice I can give to people who are thinking of getting in like a meditative practice or looking into meditation. Okay, you can have meditation apps on your phone and go like in a guided meditation, which is already good. The weird thing about meditation, and I've practiced meditation with Buddhist monks in Tibet, in China.
How would you communicate out of interest? Like, do they speak English or?
Yeah, but there's not a lot of speaking with monks. They don't speak a lot. They show you. There is music. They show you, and you just follow, and everything is simple because it's like the language of the body, and they show you. So you don't need a lot of English. Otherwise, that would be a problem. But for them and the way they live, they are in a constant meditative state, which in our modern societies is impossible. But the way meditation works and the way it's been maybe sometimes misconceived in the West is that a meditative state, I can get in a meditative state at whatever moment. I don't need to be in a quiet room with my eyes closed in a special pose to be meditating.
How does that make you feel? Like, if you would explain someone that has absolutely no idea what meditation is about, and you said you can get, because I think the society imagines meditation sitting, closed eyes, in a lotus pose, with some music, or I mean in quiet, doesn't matter. But if you can, because I also have a friend, and I asked him the same question, and said, "Oh, I've been practicing it for so many years that even, somewhere being in public or at a party,
Yes.
it doesn't really matter. I can get into the state." So, and what exactly do you feel like?
So what is the objective of meditation? What's the purpose of meditation? A lot of people would say, "Oh, to relieve stress, or to calm my mind." That's often the answer you get. In fact, that's not really the purpose of meditation. That's also what you get with meditation. But the purpose of meditation is coming back to your natural state. What does that mean? It means like you're not stimulated, but it doesn't mean you cannot be stimulated. You can be in a public place, or you can be, but you're not stimulated, and you return to your inner self. So there is this kind of your mind doesn't go to the external world, but goes into your internal world. That's the best way I can explain it.
Okay.
That means that in the beginning of all meditation practices, it's like having an awareness of your body and your mind. What's happening in my body? What's happening in my mind? And how can I be unbothered of what's happening and start really letting go?
Is that something you connect with breath? Because I find it's often that, right, this breath that activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It also...
Yes, but the misconception is, because there is a fine line between, a thick line, rather, between meditation and breathwork.
Okay.
You cannot be meditating if you're doing breathwork at the same time. Because that would mean that you're consciously thinking of breathing in a certain way. You can use breathwork to get into a meditative state, but then you need to let go of your conscious breathing and breathe naturally in a meditative state. In a meditative state, you're not consciously breathing, you're letting go, and your breath goes naturally in and out. You can direct your breath, but there is no forcing. It's the same with the mind. You cannot force your mind in a meditative practice to be calm, to make sure you're not thinking of anything, No, it's not like that.
No.
Meditation is also about letting your thoughts, what thoughts do I have if I leave my mind and body as is, in the most natural, unbothered state? There will be, of course, there will be things going through your mind. The ideas, I'm not going to focus on those things. They are going to pass through, in and out my mind, and I let it. So it's going back to this natural kind of state. And meditation is also like, maybe the easiest part to meditation for me is contemplation. Contemplation is a form of meditation.
Okay.
Or can be, like, imagine you're in a park or in a beautiful place. It can even be your garden. You sit down somewhere and you look at something that's already beautiful, or the practice is to find beauty in something you're looking at.
That's interesting. Never heard of it.
Yeah, and this puts you in a state of contemplation. You're still focusing on something, but at some point, the contemplation will make you focus on something simple and natural. And at some point, you will let go of that and be in a state of like just flow. It's of course, it takes practice.
Sounds like a very good. I mean, my relationship with meditation is, well, I was at some point consistently doing it for probably a month or two. Every morning I would wake up. It would still be partly as a torture. But I mean, I have this a lot of new habits that I start doing something and then I stop. But then I always have it on the back of my mind. And it's an interesting one because the more I think about it, that I really have to do it, the more I want to do it, that at some point I still go back to it, and then I gain this momentum and I become consistent with it. But for me, it seemed like a very good self-reflective tool, because, as you've said, the thoughts that would enter your mind, and sometimes they're very random, and also uncomfortable, I suppose. It a reset button. I mean, the way it worked for me, and I didn't really have a big or strong relationship with meditation, but it almost resets my mind, and then I start my day sort of on a clean slate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the meditative mindset is also about observing. You're not you, and of course you're you, but you're the observer of you. So you're observing what's happening in your mind. You're observing what's happening in your body. You're the observer, and it's very interesting because things start to come up, and you need to be like, you need to create this awareness of yourself. So it's very interesting, and that's why in Asia they have all these practices. You're talking about tea.
Yeah.
For example, the tea ceremony they have in China and in Japan. They are very good at making the simple everyday things something that they can meditate on, or a meditative practice. Finding the beauty and the contemplating the smallest thing throughout the day. It can be an object you feel the pen with your hands, and finding the meditation in those small things is the most like beneficial thing you can do, instead of having this forced kind of meditation moment that you have to do and check the box and then just go on with your day.
It's interesting. I find it that I almost, borderline get in a meditative state when I'm in nature surroundings, right? So when I go back home to Lithuania during the summer and I generally have a short attention span, and I'm not definitely the most patient person, but I have a few things like mushroom picking or fishing. I can just sit with a fishing rod for 10 hours and just stare at the lake, and I don't need any stimuli. And this is just me, and I often find that gives me so much. At some point, like throughout the day, I reach this fulfillment or comfort, and it's not because of the fishing aspect, but it's just because I feel, you really you almost blend with nature. You start hearing the sounds that your brain doesn't normally pick up because you're so distracted. You start seeing the smallest things, and I find it for me it works, and I think more and more. Or maybe it's a hypothetical question or a question to you. Do you think humans are meant to be connected with the nature, and then that nowadays we're more and more disconnected, right? Because of the lifestyles that we live, and also sometimes we don't have the opportunity. If we live in a city and we have a busy life, we have work, this and that. I mean, some countries don't even have a lot of.
I think you answered the question already with the fishing example. So when you go fishing, it's not only like, of course, it's the fishing, but it's also like the surroundings, and it puts you already in this state where you feel connected to something that's bigger than you. And the fact that going to nature today is almost considered as a spiritual practice or a mindfulness practice is insane. And it says a lot about the fact that we're totally disconnected with nature. And we need to find like these small things we can do to reconnect with nature, walking barefoot in our bare feet in our garden, grounding, or trying to have as much plants indoor as we can to have try to have some green. And I know it's not easy because a lot of people live in the big cities and they don't have, maybe they have a park, often overcrowded with joggers. It's not always easy to reconnect with nature, but I think it's one of the most beneficial things you can do, because it doesn't require much. Also, again, like the breath is free. Well, almost, of course, if I have to take my car to a park. But walking in a forest and just hearing like the birds and being connected with nature, it's something very unique. And I don't think we need to put a lot of explanation or science behind it, because the experience for everybody is very, very beneficial. And even more, there are some people today that are so disconnected with nature that they feel uncomfortable in nature.
Interesting.
So they avoid going into nature.
But do you think it, and I mean, I don't want to go too much into concepts that are not so scientific, but I think it's still important to touch upon. So I think, nature, the trees, everything is they're alive, right? So I think there's also, I just remembered, we were watching with Jansu, there was this experiment done. There were, two flowers, and to one flower, the humans were, well, the person was saying all the beautiful things, right? And it flourished and became beautiful. And to the other same flower, people were saying all the, negative things that, oh, you're horrible, you're not nice, and it actually died, right? So, I'm not saying, and I know I have friends and people that would say it's bullshit. It doesn't really make sense. But I think being in nature, right? Because it's our hub, right? It's nature, Earth, right? That's where everything is sort of alive. You also have an exchange of energy, perhaps, right? So if you feel drained, and we hear it quite often, people go to nature and it's like, oh, I'm so recharged.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that maybe there is this correlation where, you actually get, well, some sort of fulfillment or energy being in the nature, right?
Yeah.
Because you're surrounded by,
I think that's a topic for a full podcast.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But
for sure.
but yeah, what is very true is that also science is advancing and biology is advancing on this topic. So we know that trees are communicating with each other. Plants are communicating with each other. Plants know when they are touched. They don't like to be touched. So there are vibrations that are emitting from plants that we can measure. So on that front, science is advancing. On another front, which is like, without looking at science and a proof of that, when you are in nature, you feel this connectivity. You feel that you belong there. You feel that you belong there. And there is so much things happening in a forest, so much life happening. Of course, this is all like vibrational, and when you're part of all this, when I was a boy, when I was a young boy, my favorite thing was in the summer was laying down in the grass, looking at the skies, looking at the clouds, and just letting my imagination go. When do you still
seeing
do
all
that?
These figures in the clouds.
Yes. When do you still do that as an adult?
Yeah.
And this connection with like, oh, in fact, I'm part of something much bigger.
Yeah.
And ancient civilizations, they didn't have light. There was no light. So when it got dark, all they could see was like the moon, the stars, and they felt like part of this bigger thing. And today we don't have that anymore. There is no. Where do you still like see clear skies when you can see the stars and having this? And I think this is like a deep spiritual experience.
Yeah, I think as you've said, it's not even one episode. It probably go throughout the entire season, because also a lot of ancient structures, right, and buildings, the way they're built, I mean, they are perfectly aligned to, and again, I'm not going to be able to elaborate or explain because I don't remember by heart, but they're aligned in a way that it's exactly, well, aligned to a particular star, right? So, I mean, also the pyramids, the way they're built, and I mean, there's so much research about it, so I'm sure at some point in the future we're going to touch upon it, but that again answers the point that people are so connected to the nature, and that's something that they've been experiencing and seeing on a daily basis, that also a lot of things they did were based on, nature, right? So, and I think that's maybe another, because I think when we started opened our podcast, we sort of said we have body, we have our mind, and we have the spirit, right? And I was thinking about spirituality in general, because I also, it's not a topic that I've started looking into it maybe in the past 1 year. It's always been very interesting to me. And also, I think if you sometimes ask people what kind of role spirituality plays in your life, and I had a friend who's like, "Oh no, I'm not religious." But I think it's important, right, to distinguish that spirituality and religion, these are two very different things. I mean, they're somewhat related, but again, it's not. Spirituality can be a very, very different thing. So, because for me, spirituality is probably a connection or thought, something beyond something material, right? Or beyond our ego. And I think there's so much to it. So even your thoughts, your energy, as I mentioned, vibrations, right? I think there were a lot of moments in my life where I would just meet a person, or you would enter the room and you would feel like you don't belong, you don't want to be there, or you don't want to be around that person, and it's not because of the way they look or the way they speak, because they could be I don't know, the center of attention and everyone likes them, but it's almost your gut feeling, right? What is your sort of relationship with all of this, and again, what kind of role spirituality plays in your life?
That's a super broad topic, but
It's
interesting what you say, because spirituality, often people are doing something spiritual without even knowing, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about like nature and the connectivity with like something bigger than us. I think that's also what spirituality is about. It's like an inner knowing of like, okay, there is more to life than just this. And it's talking about like your connectivity with something bigger, and it can be something that's linked to the religion, but it can also be very like more grounded, and a part of like self-knowledge, and having spiritual practices can be super broad. So asking somebody like, are you a spiritual person, is already like opening too many doors at the same time, I would say. And for me, yeah, spirituality is playing a big role in my life. I have spiritual practices. That's something that's also very personal, but it comes from the feeling for me that there are invisible
energies,
frequencies, vibrations, and it's something that relates to the universe. It's something that relates to interpersonal, like you said, interpersonal connections. Why do you feel drawn to certain persons without even knowing them?
Yeah.
Others,
that's what I had with you.
Yeah, thank you. Same here. So this is strange because, okay, maybe that's beyond spirituality, but it's just there are so many proofs in lives, and we don't need science for that. You just need your inner like knowing and your experience to know that some things cannot be explained with science. But there is this feeling of how you're connected with other persons also, and the spirituality is trying to have those practices to discover the connections that you don't always see, the connections to things, the connections to yourself. So there is a lot of inner work in spirituality for me. Of course, there is also this sense of community, which that's why maybe, there is also this link with religion, which is more like community-based.
Yeah.
But you have this, and for me, because we're talking about, a lot of like this path to enlightenment, but it's the path to inner knowledge, And I think that's one of the big objectives in my life, is to try to, with my experiences, good or bad, to try to better myself, to try to know me better. Who am I? What do I want? What do I need? This is like the purpose of like spirituality for me. And to discover that, the part of this discovery is full of different tools you can use. And you need to find the tools that are for you. Spirituality can be dancing. Spirituality can be meditation. Spirituality can be psychotherapy.
Yeah.
It can be so many things.
That's true. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the thing is, find what suits you the best. And it's also, again, talking about the meditation, it's an everyday approach. It's like when I meet somebody, why is it that I'm not going immediately to like, say hello and start a small talk to try to know who you are? No, I try to sense already who you are.
So, okay, because again, it's such a broad topic, and again, I think it's something would be great to have a guest actually about, and there's so many different fields we could have a guest about in the future. I think quantum physics is definitely a very interesting one, and it's also not such an old information or science, right?
Because of the link with spirituality, that's what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. So where I'm heading is that if you look more at the quantum physics, right, and us as humans, and where I'm heading is more our frequencies and vibrations, right? Because I think it can be linked to spirituality, right? It's not something that's black and white. but we're all made out of atoms, right? And I mean, we're all beings that vibrate, right? If you look from the scientific point of view. And I think there were a lot of instances in my life where, you know, you really attract who you are or how you're currently feeling. Because again, in the beginning, when we're talking about illnesses or health issues, I think when you get yourself into this mindset that, you know, things are bad or you're not feeling so well, you're going to attract more of that. And once you elevate yourself and you get into this higher vibration or higher frequency, right, you start meeting the people that are like-minded. And I think that's what I've been noticing in the past 1 year. Most of the people that I meet, or at least establish some sort of a relationship, they have very similar interests that I do. Again, it depends on the places you meet, but there's so much in common, and it's actually really interesting. And you could argue, yeah, it's a coincidence, but I don't think so, because it's, you know, there's science you could base that. Well, there's science that could prove a fact that, you know, you attract of who you are, and then, you know, vice versa. So I think at least for me. Again, spirituality is a very broad topic, but it's also the way you reposition your mind, or the way even you think, and the coincidences that happen in your life based on that. And it's very difficult to explain, because if you look from probability point of view, sometimes it doesn't make sense. It's like 1 in a million that this particular occasion or thing could happen, but it happens because of, you know, these also energy fields, I suppose. And yeah,
I believe a lot in synchronicities, and synchronicities, you can be open to them or not. So synchronicities are things that happen to you, but are not happening like just like that by coincidence. There is a meaning, and it's a vast domain. But I think if you're not open to see those things, you're not going to see them. And that's why spirituality needs to kind of open your mind, open your heart to having those synchronicities, being it meeting the right people, being the right things happen to you. But you need to have this kind of openness, which spirituality also teaches you. And meditation can be a good way for that as well. But of course, I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
So that would already tell you something about my spiritual mind, because I don't think there are coincidences in life. So kind of catching the signs is important, and I'm sure in like further episodes we will also establish the link, because the link with the mind and the body is quite clear. We've covered it, but the link with like spirituality, the mind, the body, is also like super interesting. And I think we'll have a lot of opportunities to cover that.
What can people or the viewers probably expect from future episodes? As we've said, I mean, there's so many topics to cover. So some of them, I think, again, we'll just have a chat like we do, you know, as friends. But we'll try to also have guests here that have particular knowledge in a field where we would really then also something we can learn as well, because there's still so much we don't know. And I myself, if I reflect, I could say there are so many topics I would want to talk about, and I kind of have the knowledge, but sometimes I just cannot explain in words or like in a scientific way, because some things are difficult. And especially if we talk about like spirituality, it's also a very, very thin line where, you know, also some people might not relate, but that's also completely fine. I think this is, the whole idea is to also for us to have fun. And I actually had a lot of fun today.
Yeah, for sure. It flew by. It's crazy. Yeah. So I think what I want with this podcast, and what we want, I think, is take people by the hand and kind of go into a path of discovery, of different practices, also science, around self-improvement, around
longevity, health,
health, and it's going to. And that's what I like. It's going to go from like hard data, very scientific stuff, to like probably woo-woo, spiritual stuff.
And that's
we
great.
Don't care.
We're
asking questions, and we're going to see where this leads us.
100%. All right.
Thanks a lot,
was
man.
good fun. Thank you.